I've known Matt for 15 years. You know, we have both played in several projects around each other. You know, we'd share bills. We had probably played shows together before we knew each other well. There was a festival going on in Norman called the Dust Bowl Arts Market, and we were both playing with a band on the patio of a Mexican food restaurant named Pepe Delgados, which is very, very good. So we just played on this back patio with each other, and it was just really, really enjoyable. And I distinctly remember him being like, we should do this more often. So then we ended up just playing together quite a bit in other projects. I think we worked on our own music here and there. We played at the Friend. So we just started just hanging around each other a lot. Even when he would be back from Stardeath and White Dwarfs tours and Flaming Lips tours, we would just work on music together. And then those things eventually led to how Brainwasher writes. So it started in a very primal way, I would say. And then I realized we had this connection due to, I like guitar, I love guitar effects. Favorite guitar players were, Graham Coxon from Blur, Tom Morello, Ronald Jones is a huge inspiration. So that weird sonic stuff I always really liked. But playing with Matt, I realized there was just more of this intuition going on in between us that you don't really have to talk about it. You just kind of are locking in together. And as much as I like guitar, I like playing off of drums a lot more, which to me is way more of a bass logic. So we would just keep, just the more we met up, it was always just very easy. That communication between us, unspoken or otherwise, was just a very easy thing to come across, unfortunately. And that's, you do this thing, you play with a lot of people, and that is the most linear communication I have with, much of anybody doing music with. Matt and I were playing a lot of music together, and then Stardeath, before I was in Stardeath, they did a cover of Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe by Kendrick Lamar, and then I did a weird kind of guitar solo on it. I think it's just on SoundCloud still. And then Matt introduced me to Portishead, that record Dummy, and then I just had gotten into trip hop a lot more and got into Twin Peaks, so this weird cinematic, longing, kind of sad music, not sad on its face, but music with complicated emotions. I'd still have these journals where I'll just write down ideas of things I want to do, and I'm sure there's just a bunch of slop in one of them, but there was one distinctly about wanting to do music with him, and even I would email him music for potential Stardeath songs and just ideas before I was in Stardeath. So there was just this idea of what it could be. Maybe in my mind it was originally going to be something more linear and krautrock with the motoric beat. But then what we eventually started doing was just way more ethereal and could kind of do a lot of different things, and that's what we were drawn to. But of how we came up with the name, I remember there was a bar in Norman, Oklahoma called Abner McNelly's, and we met up there, and then I remember going up to him, and we just were, gonna have dinner, I believe. And I was like, what if we have a band and call it Brainwash? And then he said, very instantly, what if we call it Brainwasher? Remember the exact seat we were at and everything. I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. So already that communication was there. We have done, oh my gosh, I'd say less than 10, maybe 8 or 9 shows as Brainwasher. We were doing our own songs from the very beginning. We did do a cover of a Rihanna song called Stay. So we started, I don't even know, we must have played that live a few times, maybe not, but that was a big thing. So we always just did our own music. And then, the shows are always just really fun. We have, in the first iteration of it, we played, our very first show was at the Womb, and it was an art opening for the Hibert brothers, Spencer and Oliver. And they did the art for Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band cover record and a bunch of other things. We did an art show for them. My parents came. We played about 4 songs, which is all we had, and then we had to do that twice because that's as much music as we were could play at all. I think Wayne said initially that we were going to play till 5 in the morning, which we had 4. So we did the set once, terrific. The second time, because of things, as you would imagine, not as well, but it was very fun. We started doing the band with Dennis Coyne, who sings for Stardeath and White Dwarfs. We would work on this music with him. He would just really come up with these really, really fantastic beats, and we would maybe one of us would have a music idea, and Dennis would do all this underbelly stuff that would really inform everything later on. We would work on music at Pink Floor, which is Wayne's studio. We would work on stuff between the three of us. Me, Matt, and Dennis. Dennis would maybe send us a beat, we would write to that. I would maybe send him a music idea, he would make a beat to it or a background. Then we had these other songs, like this song on the record called Try, and even what became Silver and White. We just worked on that stuff at Matt's house when he lived in Norman. Like Silver and White, there's a demo of it, of Matt playing a drum machine, and then me just playing a keyboard, and we're just kind of, I think I had to like rough lyrics to it. But we were just kind of just pushing through this thing, trying to find something. And there's a couple differences, but it has that idea to it. Try, Matt was singing and then playing the piano on an audio recording on his phone. And then, you know, how these songs started we're able to really work together in this way of lyrically, I don't really think lyrically, honestly, but I'll just think of music and then put any of my emotions or complexities into the music that way, and then Matt is just incredible with words in that way. So then we're able to really blend those things together, and we're able to work off of each other in that way. I mean, the more we worked on it, the more things we would write. There's a few songs on our SoundCloud rather. You know, so we did those songs. Matt joined the Lips. We did a couple more recordings from that first session we did at Pink Floor. Then we worked on them a few years later at Trent Bell Labs, and Norman. Then once, you know, COVID hit, we were just at home a lot, so then we were just emailing ideas to each other. So we reworked a couple things. We did a cover of John Prine's Angel from Montgomery, and around that time things were really coming together. And then by that point, when we were writing all that music in 2020, we were really able to find all these old ideas we had, like Try, Silver and White, and then bring all of these things together and really finish them in a very similar way. I mean, the songs sound different to me, but there is a cohesion emotionally or whatever all together. So, and by now, you know, we have probably 13 or 14 ideas and demos that we're working on right now. So the next thing will come out a lot more quickly, I can guarantee. But also, I think we just understand our process a little bit more. Then once we started working with Taylor Johnson, he was really able to fold in a lot of other sounds and ways to make it more cohesive than we were able to do on our own. Beyond, like, you know, making your own music sound like you, which is a strange way to say it, but I played keyboards, I made a lot of different samples from just playing a lot of weird guitar pedals and then just cutting them up into little segments and making samples out of them. I played bass, I played guitar, Matt played keys, Matt did drum sequencing, I had all the vocal ideas. Then, you know, I think a lot of people think that what come off like synthesizers and all out of the music is just guitar pedals. It's just a lot of weird layering, and it's a mix of, you know, I know what I'm doing maybe about this much, but then the things that I don't know what I'm doing, you're able to, you know, fall ass backwards into these sounds that you couldn't recreate otherwise. Like there's this sound, and at least it beats an actor that to me it sounds like a video game helicopter, like like crashing. So that was just a combination of two guitar pedals, and then, you know, you make a sample out of that. Well, I just like how that sounds. I'm gonna listen to that for 4 minutes, and then that's the underbelly of the whole thing. You know, then we did all these sounds together. Some demos are mainly things recorded in this room. We have a lot of stuff recorded at Matt's house, and when we finished it up in Savannah, we used a lot of sounds from like appliances and glasses, like a washer and dryer and a dishwasher, and just banging on things like it's like Stomp or something. But it made these really, really great sounds, and we're able to, you know, punctuate everything with all these other strangeness and tones that we didn't really get otherwise. Then Taylor could really view all that stuff and see it in a great singularity. A couple of my favorite songs on the record, you know, I really like At Least It Beats Being an Actor. I feel like that one, when that one came together, that felt like, oh, this feels like a direction for a record now. It was just really, really exciting. I mean, Matt and I were both massively inspired by the Nick Cave record, Skeleton Tree, where there's all these other just weird tones and background music, and nearly sounds like Tangerine Dream, sounds like Suicide, sounds like Green Apples, all these other just tones and synths, and I mean, there's a lot of sounds going on. So just hearing stuff like that was just very inspiring in a punk way, as far as like, oh, we can do stuff like that. And then those kind of textures to me, much like my favorite Yo La Tengo records, have these soundscape things going on, and you get more and more of this richness and tones the more you listen to it. So that one for me was major. And then when we reworked up Silver and White, I mean, that's an older one, but when we started working on it, there's this other, like this 4-note melody at the beginning. It's kind of Twin Peaksy. But then once we had that and then layered some other samples in it, those are my couple favorite things to work on. Just because, you know, Actor is something brand new that just, I'll record stuff in a day very, very quickly. Maybe it's my own impatience. Maybe it's lack of concentration, which is the same thing, admittedly. But then also Silver and White, you have the other juxtaposition of that song is old. So because of that, coming back to that and being able to bring new life into it and to finish it was just very exciting to see that we could do both of these things, of doing the new and then of, you know, doing the old. As far as the visual aesthetic of everything, that is not something I'm personally thinking about. Not that it's not important, but I just don't. I feel like it could just go so many different directions. Matt has way more of an eye for that kind of thing. I think we would use this imagery from like Twin Peaks early in the day for us. So that did it. I didn't even know where to begin with that sort of a thing, honestly. And even with, you know, big inspirations, you know, like Massive Attack and Portishead, other than maybe, you know, you remember the record of Mezzanine from Massive Attack. It looks like this kind of this beetle, and the dummy, it's just a picture from, you know, the Portishead movie. There's not like a visual aesthetic to that music, I don't think, which is liberating in its own way, but it's hard to just think of what that would look like listening to it. So, you know, Matt, Wayne, and this guy named Zack Gray were working on the album cover, and including Blake Studdard, were working on it together, and they're sending back these ideas. So we had this idea of, you know, two figures walking off into the distance underneath streetlight. So then we were able to recreate that on this bridge in Oklahoma City. And then, you know, I think for me, visually, it's like, I didn't know what I wanted, but I would know it when I saw it, which is an incredibly lame answer, which is true though. So as it was going, yeah, that came together, and then I think we were really able to send stuff back and forth, and then we were able to come across what we liked, because people, you know, were motivating us to come up with with the whole visual aspect of the album. And, you know, admittedly, like, we had just got the record done, so just doing that alone was a big deal to me. So then of thinking about the cover, I was like, oh no, like, what are we going to do for that? But it was, yeah, you know, Matt, Blake, Zach, and Wayne really all came together and came up with something that meets this weird mood and kind of does its own thing, and it's, you know, represents other stuff. So I mean, I absolutely love it. So initially, you know, Wayne was working on it with Matt, and they had Eyes of Darkest Heaven. That was on the cover. I think something just had to be put on the formatting of a cover in order to, what would all this look like beyond of the language, or beyond of our name being on it, or the title of it? What would everything look like together? So it's not like, not a placeholder per se, but it was something that needed to be there. So that's what we had come up with. And then I think the more Matt milled over it, you know, this 39 Light Years was just more of a personal touch and more of a thing of his own logic. You know, he has these notebooks, and he's writing, and he's either he's journaling, or he's writing down lyrics of things that don't have music. He just thinks more in a way of language than I. So then I think that was just the thing that was stewing around in his brain. So then that just came together. So as you're finishing up what the cover's going to look like, what our name's going to look like, the colors, you know, just endless, you know, details of things. That's just what we ended up on, and I think that was I really loved it. And then I think it was even more compounded by, then we had a song that was actually called 39 Light Years from Heaven. Having this record out in the world now is fucking massive. I mean, it's a really big deal. I mean, we've been working on this music for 10 or 11 years. Some of these songs are as old as that. Some are a couple years old. Some are 5 years old. Regardless, it feels like a big deal, and it shows you that I think you can get really concentrated and obsessed with the sequence of time and when things can come out or when you should be doing it. Because again, when we were finishing up this record in Savannah, I was planning to go to school full time and not do music. My life was going to go in a very different direction. It's easy to project these things, but you have no fucking idea. But I think that freed me up in a way of really going for it in a certain respect, musically, or how this thing sounds. And then it was like, well, let's just put old, new, all of this stuff together. We did that in 2020. Then Taylor helped us mix it, and Dave and Mike mastered it. And then when we started talking to Mothland, when it was going to come out, that was a year and a half or a year projected from when we started talking to them. It's like, well, what's waiting another year? It makes no difference, truthfully. But it's all about kind of picking away at the process, and then you eventually come with the outcome of the final project. And that's all this time and effort and love and a lot of thought is put into it. So seeing it is just it's still kind of insane to me to see this record at all. It's just like, there it is. I still can't believe it. I mean, I drive by that bridge every single day. There's me, there's Matt, there's Blake's daughter's eyes, there's the title, our name. It's just still crazy to me. But even what it further speaks to is that, since I joined the Flaming Lips, Wayne has been working on the Yoshimi comic book. He'd fortunately send, me sketches of it, finished color pages for 3.5 years, maybe 4. And even at the time, it's like, well, this seems insurmountable. And then now that thing is even coming out too. So being able to see that project, it's in life, it's so easy to get overwhelmed with the end result of something, or if something you want to build up towards, it'll stifle you into not doing it or finishing it. But you just have to, continually pick away at it, and then it will eventually get done. And you just have to, with due diligence and patience and care, it'll eventually get done. You can take time off and it's fine, but you do need to. It shows the importance of having patience with a creative project. I'll write a lot of music in a day, but then also it's important to have things that aren't so immediate.